I think we're hot. Just want to make sure the stream is live on YouTube before I actually start doing content because I really don't want to repeat myself because this takes a while. So, we are going to do a Riley Smith player evaluation right now. Okay, we're hot on Twitter and YouTube. Cool. So, the newest New York Ranger, I think, yeah, they traded for Riley Smith after acquiring Sam Carrick. Sam Carrick, not going to be getting a player evaluation. If the Rangers play Sam Carrick more than like 35 regular season games, something went wrong. That guy is not very good at hockey. So, Riley Smith in a vacuum, a quality hockey player, won a Stanley Cup back in back in Vegas. Somebody who's been around the NHL for quite a long time, has a decent track record of success, and somebody whose game I think will help the Rangers, but I'm not positive it will help the Rangers if there's lack of a better word. Riley Smith presents an opportunity. The Rangers bought low on somebody who, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is not working. This is not working. Yes, it is. Okay. I can't read. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. I was worried the stream wasn't working for a second, but there we go. Okay, we're hot. So, talking about Riley Smith. This is a really solid hockey player, but from what I've been told, didn't really click in Pittsburgh. The counting stats didn't follow. They tried playing him with Evgeny Malkin, and that didn't particularly work. They tried playing him at various points with Sidney Crosby, and the Penguins took the loss. I thought Riley Smith in a vacuum was a good addition for what Pittsburgh was trying to do, trying to remain competitive as the window with Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson started to wind down. Ultimately, it didn't end up working out. So let's start with the Riley Smith context. So if you've watched one of these player evaluations before, we got to start with the context. We got to know ice time in line. 1608, the least amount of ice time Riley Smith has played since 2014, 2015, when he was still a Bruin. So, yes, it has been a while since Riley Smith played that little. The other component we should probably talk about is the time on ice. And not natural stat trick, excuse me. Hockey reference, it's annoying where they put time on ice. So, we got to go over here. Power play, Command F, Riley Smith. A minute 47 of power play per game. So not sneaking on to that first unit because you got to remember Malkin, Crosby, Gensel, Letang, Eric Carlson. Riley Smith not cracking that five. And I know at points Riley Smith did play on their first power play unit. They obviously did trade Jake Gensel. And you also have to remember that Pittsburgh had one of the worst power plays in like all of human history last year, in spite of the fact that it featured four future Hall of Famers in Crosby, Malkin. Letang is fringe, but I think he'll get in because he's Canadian, and Eric Carlson, who will obviously get in. And then the other thing to look at is his usage. So we go average time on ice, forward number one, forward number two, forward three, forward four, forward five. Michael Bunting doesn't count because Michael Bunting counts, I guess. Raquel, Riley Smith. He's pretty down the pecking order here as far as forwards. So again, forward one, forward two, forward three, forward four, forward five, forward six, forward five or six. So the fifth or sixth most commonly used forward on the Penguins. A minute 30 per game on the power play, and not a good power play at that. And then you look at the counting stat drop off. You go from 56 to 40, but you only had 38 the year before. You got to remember 56 game season. Then before that, this is the 56 game season. Excuse me. This is the season afterwards Riley Smith was injured. We're talking about a safely 40-point player. I think Riley Smith's floor is probably a 35 to 40-point forward. So we've done the context. We've got the time on ice. We've got the usage. Now let's go look at line mates. Line mates is something I do think that we should consider as well to get an idea. So individual forward, Riley Smith. Spelling is good. Riley Smith. This is last year. Obviously, he has not played a game as a Ranger yet. Most common line mates: Ricard Raquel, Evgeny Malkin, Lars Eller, Valtteri Puustinen, Evgeny Malkin, Riley Smith, Drew O'Connor. Both of those The first two, at least, positive goal differentials. That's something that's encouraging. Positive shot differential, positive scoring chance differential. That stuff's all good. That is all a reasonable starting point for evaluating a player. So we are dealing with someone who is a sixth, seventh forward who's going to get on a first power play on a bad team or a second power play on a good team, who's going to play maybe 16, 17 minutes a game overall. But let's go over here. Let's pull up, where is it? Hockey Viz. Here we go. Oh, I'm not signed in. Hang on. I got to log into Hockey Viz. Can't show you my Twitter password. I'm sorry. So this is loading. Okay. So we need to look at Pittsburgh for last year. We'll share this tab. We want to see what defenseman was Reilly Smith most commonly deployed with. So make this bigger. Actually, wait, no, on this website, that makes it worse because this stuff doesn't get reformatted. Here we go. Okay. So Carlson, Pettersson, Letang, the very bad Ryan Graves, Reilly Smith. So Erik Karlsson, that's good. Graves, not good. Less time with Letang and Pettersson. So that tells me when he's out there, they are not asking him to drive play. They are not as worried about that group scoring goals. I think Reilly Smith was a little bit miscast, and I think the Penguins' issues were a little bit too big for just Reilly Smith to supersede them. And I think that's a lot of people's concerns in regards to Reilly Smith as a Ranger. I think everybody's kind of in agreement that we were trying to get, Jake Gensel or maybe a Steven Stamkos or a Jonathan Marchessault as far as needle moving. And instead, we got a fringe top six forward who probably would be better suited to play on a third line in 2024, 2025. So let's look at this. This is quality of competition. On Puck IQ, this is a very useful website. You see it right here. 34% of his ice time against elite, 36 against middle, 29 against gritty guys. You see, this is 2023, 2024. Only got better results here. More time against middle and gritensity because Vegas was a deeper team. You got to remember, Vegas won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. Then they salary dumped Reilly Smith, and the Penguins took him for pretty much nothing. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can start talking about the mechanics of how Reilly Smith likes to play. This means, of course, going over to All Three Zones, one of my favorite websites in the entire world, because it helps provide context to how a player plays, not just their stats, not just how they ended up. So shots and passes, we go to Pittsburgh. Crosby, Malkin, way over here on primary shot assists. Jake Gensel, in the really good category, up here with good players like Natchez, like Matthews, like McKinnon, like Panarin. We come down here. Reilly Smith, in this category, primary shot assist per 60, closer to the upper echelon there, and still an above average number of shots per 60 minutes. Above average. He's in this top right quadrant. That's good. We go over here to just scoring chances. We're going to click on the Pittsburgh. Reilly Smith, again, in the quality category, scoring chances per 60, scoring chance assists per 60, in the positive quadrant, where you want a player to be. High danger passes. Reilly Smith is here. He is once again in the good category. High danger passes per 60, and then he takes shots off of high danger passes at a high rate as well. You compare that to where some of the Rangers are. You see the Rangers guys, they're up here. Reilly Smith's right here. That would put him in pretty good category with the Rangers, with Kreider, Trocheck, Panarin. Blake Wheeler being there is funny in all honesty, but that's a useful skill set. That is something the Rangers need. You look at where the rest of their lineup is on this screen. You see Pitlick wasn't really on the team a lot, but Cooley, Zibanejad, Gaudreau, Vesey, Hedl, Kakko. Reilly Smith's up here. More high danger passes per 60 and shots off of high danger passes per 60. That's encouraging. That tells you the Penguins were threatening when he was on the ice. Now let's look at rush versus forecheck. Reilly Smith is here once again in the good category, in the good quadrant of this scatter plot. So shots off the rush per 60 and then shots off forecheck and cycle per 60. He's in the upper right category. You compare that with the Rangers, who are almost all below average in terms of shots off the forecheck and cycle per 60, other than Panarin and other than Will Cooley and Lafreniere. But Lafreniere was playing with Panarin. He'd only 10 regular season games, so you don't really want to use him in your estimation. That tells me the Rangers at least have an idea. That tells me they see something under the hood here, because Reilly Smith, again, is up here in this category. He's up here. The Rangers are almost all below average in number of shots off forecheck and cycle per 60. And half of the regulars are below average in shots off the rush. So Reilly Smith functionally helps. Now let's look at rush offense. We'll go to Pittsburgh. Controlled entries. This is good. You would like him to be up here, but this tells me, and this scatter plot tells you, Reilly Smith can carry the puck into the offensive zone because he's to the right of this y-axis. He's on this side of the plot. Because the Penguins were not very efficient when they got to the offensive zone when Reilly Smith was out there, he's not in this upper category. Because for most of the other scatter plots we've looked at so far, he was up here. He was in the top right or top left. In this one, he's only bottom right. So they get the puck into the offensive zone when Reilly Smith is out there, and he can carry the puck into the zone, but they're not generating offense off of it. They're not shooting a lot off of those zone entries, which tells you they had to dump and chase more when he was out there. So let's look at entries. This is the Rangers as far as zone entries. You want to be on the right side of this plot. This means you're carrying the puck into the offensive zone. Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere. It is not a coincidence that the guys in the top right quadrant of this plot were the Rangers' best forward line. Now let's compare that to Pittsburgh. Pretty much everybody is on the good side here. Where's Reilly Smith? Where's Reilly Smith? Where's Reilly Smith? There's Reilly Smith. 56% carry-in and then 18 zone entries per 60. That's good. That tells you Reilly Smith is gaining the zone with speed, with possession of the puck. And as we saw on the other plots, they're generating chances. They are generating chances when he is out there. So do we need to talk about anything else? We can look at forechecking real quick, but Reilly Smith's not a forechecker. Where's Reilly Smith? Gensel, Achari, Russ, Zadorna, Crosby, Raquel. There's Reilly Smith. Hell, even here, he's above average in recovered number of dump-ins, and he's almost above average in forecheck pressures. And then you look at the Rangers, most of their lineup is below average at both. So at least last year in Pittsburgh, Reilly Smith was better under the hood than a lot of the guys the Rangers played as far as pressuring on the forecheck and creating heat on the forecheck. That stuff you would really like to see. And thank you to everybody who's watching live right now. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube when it's been spliced up, thank you either way. But if you're watching live on the Wednesday night before a holiday, I greatly appreciate it. So we can stop sharing all three zones. I'm going to take a sip of my drink here. And then we're going to go over to evolving hockey. We are going to look at just chance metrics because I think this will explain something to you. I was interested in Reilly Smith at the trade deadline. I'll be honest with you. At the very least, Reilly Smith is a functional hockey player who is going to play not in a terribly important role, but I want to illustrate something for you. We're going to compare Reilly Smith to Kakko. You see Reilly Smith over here. That blue bar is expected goals against. That tells you they weren't on the ice playing defense a lot when he was out there. But you look at Kakko's Z scores for goals for, expected goals, chances for, expected goals against, chances against. Reilly Smith is closer to average in all of these, except expected goals against, but Reilly Smith is clearly one standard deviation better than Kakko. I know elementary statistics, not exactly the most riveting thing in the world, but I do think it explains why even though I am frustrated about the Rangers offseason at large, the roster is better than it was on opening night last year. That's what's encouraging to me about this transaction. And I'm not going to go that long because Reilly Smith is pretty accounted for. You know, we're not talking about an unknown quantity, and we're not evaluating somebody who was on the team already. I think if Reilly Smith is going to play the Blake Wheeler minutes of last year or the Kakko minutes of last year, this is an undoubted win. I think Reilly Smith is undoubtedly a more functional hockey player in 2024 than Blake Wheeler. And I think he has a lot more offensive upside than Capo Caco. Now, if the Rangers are going to go into next season with Lafreniere, Caco, or Reilly Smith, and then Reilly Smith or Caco, and then Jimmy Vesey, Brennan Osman, or Matt Rempe, or whoever, that's fine. Reilly Smith is better than what they had. He's on a 1-year contract that expires after this season, and he's not making a lot of money. The salary being retained, making Reilly Smith only cost $3.75 million against the salary cap this upcoming season. You turn Barclay Goodrow into Reilly Smith. That is a win. That is a slam dunk home run monster of a win to bring Reilly Smith in to replace Barclay Goodrow's minutes. Now, if you expect Reilly Smith to be the difference between the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup and where they're currently at, you're on drugs. But the fact that they went out, they got a depreciated asset for cheap, it is a holding pattern. We will see what they end up doing with Trouba, if there's a bigger move in the works. Maybe it's Ehlers, maybe it's Trevor Zegras, maybe it's nothing. But Reilly Smith is better than what they had. There's a real argument, and I'll pull this up. I posted this the other day, but I do want to illustrate my point here. I do want to illustrate my point. It is hard to be mad when you're comparing these two. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share this graphic I had made the other day. This is what they were working with in theory right now. Kreider, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, Panarin, Trocheck, Reilly Smith, Cooley, Hedl, Kakko, Vesey, Brodzinski, Rempe. And then we're going to compare that to opening night of last year. Panarin, Lafreniere, Hedl, that's about this. Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere was better than this. So you give them credit there. Gaudreau, Bonino, Pitlick, an atrocity. I don't know how Nick Bonino got on the Rangers last year, in all honesty. And Tyler Pitlick, not a consistent NHLer. He's a quadruple A player. The fourth line that we just talked about, the one that's Brodzinski, Vesey, Rempe, that's better than Bonino and Pitlick. Bonino and Pitlick are not NHL players. If you put Kakko in the Reilly Smith spot, or Lafreniere in that Kakko spot, you are undoubtedly a deeper team. And then the third line was Cooley, Trocheck, Wheeler. So next year, if it's Hedl, Cooley, and then Reilly Smith or Capo Caco or Brennan Othman or Brett Berard, that's better. Of course, we all know the Rangers' issue is not on the back end. And I'm going to close that. We all know the Rangers' issue is not on the back end. Up front. We know the Rangers' issues are on the back end. We know that they are in desperate need of another top 4 defenseman, and that's their big hole. Reilly Smith is not a top 4 defenseman, but he is a good hockey player. I think Reilly Smith will help the Rangers more than he will hurt the Rangers. But because they didn't address their big issue, the lack of mobility, the lack of puck skills on the back end, we're going to be sitting here. We are going to be uncomfortable. And like most Ranger fans, I'm not enthusiastic. I went from being ecstatic that they were about to move Gaudreau and Trouba in the span of a week and a half and clear up $11.5 million in cap space. And instead, we're sitting here and we're going to be told the Rangers are going to make up with Trouba and everything's going to be fine. And the same exact team plus Reilly Smith is going to be better than the team last year. That's a hard sell. And I am not ready to entirely write off the summer because it's the first week of July. There's plenty of time for a big trade. You know, the Rangers traded for Rick Nash in August of 2011-12, if I remember correctly. So the Rangers are going to have opportunities. This is obviously on the shorter end of things, but there's not really a whole lot to talk about. Reilly Smith's a good hockey player. He's got good underlying numbers. He got good transition stats. He's going to play a non-essential role, but a depth role on the Rangers. And if he's your 8th best forward, you're a pretty solid hockey team. Especially if you want to compare that to what you got from that spot from Wheeler, from Kakko, from Roslovic last year. I know nobody wants Jack Roslovic back, but Reilly Smith's undoubtedly better than Jack Roslovic. So that'll do it for this Reilly Smith player evaluation. I hope everybody enjoys their long weekend. Andrew and I will talk to you guys on Monday, or unless news breaks over the weekend and I have to do a live hit from wherever the hell I am on that given